name is Regina, and I'm a grateful recovering addict. So I remember the first time doing my fearless moral inventory, and I remember being full of fear. And I don't know why I was full of fear. I just remember as soon as they said it was supposed to be fearless, it just filled me full of fear. And I think I was afraid of the word moral as well, because a lot of the things that I did up until doing my fourth step was not moral. I was full of it. Once I started writing, though, I started finding freedom. Getting through the first 3 steps to get to the 4th step was a lot for me. The idea of finding the freedom, though, was a great deal for me. I'll be very honest. I brought up my literature because it helps me stay focused every day in every way. So in the very beginning, when it says we are starting a new way of life and need to be rid of our burdens and traps that controlled us and prevented our growth, that was huge for me. Finding out the growth part for me, finding growth period for me was huge. I just remember writing, and the more I wrote, the more I grew. And I don't know. So now I'm a sponsor, and the more I get to work a 4th step, every time I get to work a 4th step with a sponsee, I grow even more. And so that's like a freeing thing as well. I've found so much freedom in working a 4th step every time I get to work it with a sponsee. And working out those resentments for me, I had a huge resentment because I just went through something when I was younger with going through being sexually traumatized. And for me, that was a really hard thing to put on paper because I didn't know how to put it on paper. It was really hard to put those feelings down. And then once I did put those feelings down, it took me a while to actually want to read that out loud. I remember I had to literally take the time to write the things out, and I had to time it right. I couldn't write if I knew I had to work that day. I couldn't write if I knew I had to, go to sleep and get up the next day and work that day. Like, I literally had to time it out because I knew that I was going to be so full of tears and cry and possibly have a migraine because of all the pain that I was putting out. It was causing so much pain inside me. It literally was a lot. I mean, just going through it all. But I cannot, I know that there's a lot of people here that has been through the 4th step. And what it did for me was amazing. It really was. What it has done for me, what it continues to do for me, as I said, being a sponsor. Another part that I like to say as well, especially with my sponsees, is we are trying to free ourselves of living in old, useless patterns. We take the 4th step to grow and gain strength and insight. As a sexually traumatized young person, as I got older, I was able to actually speak to my abuser, which was my father, and I actually faced him at 14 years old, and I asked him if he was sorry. I asked him if he wanted to, go to hell or go to heaven, because I believe in my higher power as God, and I wanted him to be sorry. And he looked at me and said, "You didn't say no." And to me, that was for a little while, I thought it was my fault. I didn't know what else to say, so it ended the conversation. And so for a while, I really thought it was my fault. I had 3 sisters. I asked them if it happened to them, and they said they told them no, and it didn't happen. So I felt like it was my fault, because it went on for years. And later I revisited it, and I asked him to say sorry, and he said, "I didn't know you didn't want it," and he said sorry, and we actually prayed together, and he asked for forgiveness, and I was able to get past that with him then. But as I got older, like I realized, like I still blamed myself. And getting through the fourth step and working out that resentment was huge for me because I didn't realize I still had such a resentment and so much blame and shame on myself until I wrote about it. And it helped me so much to get it out and to actually talk to another human being besides my abuser, because I had never talked to another human being besides my abuser. So that was huge for me. Like, me and my higher power and my abuser were the only ones that I've ever spoke to about it. So that was really, really good for me, to get it out and to make it not make me feel shameful anymore. Don't get me wrong, the hurt's still there a little bit. You know, it doesn't hurt like it used to at all. So the next part is we must be done with the past, not cling to it. We want to look our past in the face, see it for what it really was, and release it so we can live today. And that's what I was able to do by working that major resentment out and not blame myself for it anymore, because I felt like I had blame in there. And to be able to work that and write that out and speak that out loud was huge for me, so huge for me. And working with my sponsees as well, when they have resentments that they feel that they have shame for, and being able to be open-minded and like really just, look them in the heart, look them in the eye and tell them, there's some things that we do have blame for, but there's other things we don't have blame for, and we're allowed to just speak it out loud and like love on each other. We can write as long or short as needed too. I have some sponsees that they write so much, and I'm just like, okay, some of that I get it, but you're overwriting. Like there's so much that you just kind of wrote the same thing like 15 times. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, I'm glad you got it out, but you don't have to do all that. So it's good. But for me too, an inventory becomes a relief because the pain of doing it is less than the pain of not doing it. And I just remember, like I said, I had to like time it, and like my sponsor never asked me like, you're taking a while. Are you okay? She had made sure I was okay, but she didn't like time me, and that was huge for me because like I do suffer from migraines, and like I said, I would cry. Like I was pouring my heart out and my soul into these words, and my as well as my resentments, but also as well as the good things about me, the being able to take the trapped parts of me out, and then also writing and calling on people to ask about my good things, and just remember, like that was hard too. It was hard to accept that I had good things about me at that point because I was just so hyper focused on like the bad things about me, and that was really good to do too. Was to find out like I actually had people that knew me, and some people that barely knew me, that saw such good things inside me, and like to be able to look up the meanings of those good things and like really see them at the same time. Like I could see those, and it was good to see spiritual principles inside myself. Like I honestly didn't even know what spiritual principles were before I came in to the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. I didn't even know what grace was before I came into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. I mean, it was just a word in a song before I came here. And like being able to have people give me grace, and then now I'm able to turn around and freely give it to other people is such a gift. It's such a gift. I just remember like that is something like once I got through like writing everything in the 4th step, for me, it was so difficult to say, okay, I'm finally done. Let's read it. But once I did that, that's when I found out like the fearless part. It finally came out. It finally came out that how important it is to be able to like get there. The stress once trapped inside of us is released. Writing will lift the lid off our pressure cooker. We decide whether we want to serve it up, put the lid back on it, or throw it out. We no longer have to stew in it. That was a big piece in the Narcotics Anonymous, the basic text for me. That was huge. That was a big part for me. I also have a couple things in how it works that was huge for me too. how it works has a lot on step 4 for me that was really big, that stood out for me, that helped me get through it, because, I mean, like I said, I'd have to put it down quite a bit, and it also helps me with my sponsees to get them through it too. A big one in our new lives, we have faith in the loving God whose will for us is better than anything we can manipulate or control for ourselves. That was huge for me. We may have feared intimacy to such a degree that we never revealed anything about ourselves to our friends. So for me, coming in as well, when I wrote on my 4th step, I found out that I had never, ever been a friend to anybody. And that was big. For me, I thought I had been a good friend to the friends that I had. I had best friends. And then I found out that I had never actually been a best friend to anybody that I thought I had been. When I wrote on friendship and intimacy in friendship, I found out that I always had some kind of expectation from that friendship. I always wanted something from that friendship or expected something from that friendship. And I found out that when I wrote on it, and the more I wrote on it, that there was always something I wanted or expected out of that friendship. There was always some underlying need from that friendship instead of just friendship. And that's a huge gift that I've received here in the rooms. Becoming a friend and knowing what being a friend to people here in the rooms is. I speak on that a lot. It's humongous. The family, the connections that we have in this room is tremendous. That's so hard to even put into words that we have, that gift that we have now, that I experience all the time, to be able to just literally love somebody, the intimacy that I get to experience now that I've never experienced before. And that's something without the 4th step, I don't think I would have ever learned at all. Writing on just the emptiness of intimacy, finding out what it actually meant, and being able to say that's something that I want and work on was huge for me. And I constantly make sure that I check my motives all the time. Because that intimacy is very, very important to me in friendship and every relationship that I have, to be honest. And then also as we write or discover that we've never understood the difference between intimacy and sex. Like I said, that was really huge for me, because we may have used sex to fill the spiritual void we felt inside. I know I did for a couple years after my marriage fell apart. I just wanted to feel important. And I definitely used sex to make myself feel just wanted and important. I was so afraid of being alone. I wrote on that a lot too, because that was one of my resentments against myself, is using myself in that way to make myself feel important. That was a huge resentment I wrote on myself, and I don't have to feel that way anymore, because that was that part where some of us were abused. We may have been victims, and that's where, like, somewhere in the brain of me, that's where I used myself. Those times where we procrastinated until opportunities were missed and gone, the times when we abandoned all responsibility, the times when we withdrew and refused to participate in life, all the inventory material. Through the process, our lost dreams may be awakened. And that was reawakened, and that's what happened for me. I remember coming to Narcotics Anonymous just wanting my life back, and I just got so much more. I got my life back and a whole new life on top of that. I'm a blessed recovering addict, because I don't have the desire to use at all. Sometimes I feel like I want to recoil and be alone when I hurt, and I know better. I reach out. Sometimes I just have to pull off the side of the road and make a phone call when I'm hurting. I have my step 5. There was there are some things that I've done. I got 8 felonies. I wasn't proud of them. I didn't do a lot of terrible things. I pretty much talked about the terrible things I've done, like using myself sexually. And so like in step 5, not only do we pray to ask for strength and courage, many of us also ask our higher power to listen as we make our admission. Why is it so important that we also make our admission to God? Because this is a spiritual program, and our whole purpose is to awaken spiritually. Our willingness to approach our higher power openly with our past and who we are is central to our recovery. In the past, some of us felt that we weren't worthy of a relationship with God. Our secrets blocked our ability to feel any acceptance or love from that power. For me, that was huge, because I remember, like, at one point I was like, why are you doing this to me? When I was doing it all to myself. And that's what I had to realize. I sold drugs one time, and it was to an undercover. So I definitely sealed the deal for myself. That was my higher power sitting me down, though, because 3 days before that, I should say 3 days before that indictment hit, I prayed, and I said, I can't do this on my own. I can't quit. I need something drastic to happen, and it happened. I mean, I got indicted, and I set my butt in jail, and I prayed again and said whatever I need to do, and I got myself into a reentry program after I did that time, and it got my feet into Narcotics Anonymous, and I never looked back. I've got a little bit over 4 years clean now, and thank you. Like I just did, I've got some time, probation time. I got like 10 years on paper, and we do an assessment every year, and I just did another assessment, and it was really weird. I literally didn't blink at the end of the assessment. They said, are you going to finish probation? I said, oh yeah, and I was like, oh gosh, don't be so sure, But I mean, I literally just rolled off my tongue, oh yeah, I'm going to do it, yeah, okay. I mean, there's just something about this program, like it's just a way of life. It really is. And I literally tell people, like, Narcotics Anonymous is part of my life for the rest of my life. It really, really is. It's my life. It really, truly is. Y'all are my family. Like, honestly, don't get me wrong. I've got a new leaf with my family as well. Getting through step 9 has gotten me there as well. I didn't rush that either. I'm very, very grateful to be here every day, in every way. I love y'all. That's all I got. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and invite our next speaker up here.
Hey everybody, I'm Preston. I'm an addict. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about the first time I did the 4th and 5th step and to where I'm at today, 28 years later. So, when I first got clean over here right outside of Knoxville, got a sponsor and we did some step work. And it was like a motorcycle race. I didn't stop. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. Quick. And there wasn't a whole lot of emotion with me with that. And my sponsor came up and said, we're going to do some tradition work. We're going to slow your ass down. So I started working traditions early on because he said one thing was I was too smart for my own good. And I didn't believe I was smart at all. But also, one of the things I told myself in treatment, that I was too smart to get this program because it was too simple. And it is. It's a simple program. And I'll complicate it a lot. I came in here without a belief in a higher power. Didn't connect with that the first time I went through the first 3 steps. The one thing I only got out of the first 3 steps is I didn't want to be crazy, and I knew what it meant to surrender. But I had goals. was going to get off paper, I was not going to jail, and then I was going to use. Those were my goals. As it came up and it was time, I went to jail. And leading into that, because I knew I was going to jail, I got suicidal. The reason for all that at 2 years clean, having that feeling, is because during that whole time, it was like doing the motions, but not taking care of myself. And not finding myself till later on. So, out of those three things, because I've never relapsed, all I did was get off paper. I went to jail and I've never used again. So, and as I did that, I moved from here to Georgia. Got a different sponsor and did the steps. Started all over, and it was a little different. It was slower. Still didn't look for that higher power. But what I found was enough love through the people that I was going to meetings with, the people I met, to have at least some faith that this worked. And then when I went into my fourth step, that time, it was slower, and I was able to identify some glaring things about myself. I was still practicing that, what could you do for me? I was still using people. I was still using myself. I would put myself in situations I didn't know what to do because of my character defects. And I started finally looking what I needed to change. So here I am at my fourth step, not doing a fourth step. I was doing a sixth step. I wasn't ready to change, but that's what I wanted. I need to identify what I wanted to change before I can actually change it. And it made things complicated, and it made me hurt people. Doing things that the 12th tradition tells us not to do. Still, at that point, I was still cheating on my ex-wife, but we weren't married at the time. It was before we got married. I hadn't learned how to change my behavior. All I learned how to do was not use. And then as I progressed on down the line, I started to realize a moral inventory. And then it was a little less about a sixth step and more about the fourth step, about how I stood about me, but it's still, there was that old progression that I wanted to do things ahead of time. I wanted to get this. I wanted it quick. That's how I started feeling. I did a ninth step early on. I thought I was ready. Well, the thing was, is I was not doing it for myself. I had all sorts of things. Maybe I'd be forgiven. I'd get back with this individual. And what she said to me when I apologized, well, I don't give a fuck. Who the fuck are you? That hurt. Emotionally, that hurt. Because I was, in my mind, I was doing what I needed to do. And somebody else wasn't accepting me. Well, you know what? I hadn't forgiven myself, so how the hell am I supposed to expect somebody else to forgive me as I'm going down that path? I'm skipping all around this fourth and fifth step, trying to find satisfaction, and it doesn't work. So, move up to Minnesota, and got another sponsor up there, which I was grateful to run into earlier this year. hadn't seen him in 20 plus years. Not that long. 17 years when I moved back to Tennessee. But in that time, I was able to give back because of a lot of things I'd fixed on me, because he had relapsed in the last couple of years, maybe a little longer than that. But my path of working this fourth and fifth step, finding my moral inventory, finding what I needed to fix, and then actually fixing it, going on into the sixth step, I was able to show empathy because I'd seen it with other people before, and I was able to practice that. So today, and I'm in the middle of a fourth step right now, actually. Today, the fourth step for me is a list. Where was I morally bankrupt? Today, that list is a lot smaller than it used to be. The last time a lot of things got accomplished, because 2-3 years ago, when I did my last fourth step, a lot of things came out. Now, I'm going to share something I'm not very proud of, but for about 15 years, I never went to a meeting. Stayed in touch with my sponsor, read literature every now and again, didn't do jack nothing. And then I started doing these steps again when I came back about 6 years ago. You know what came through that list? All the bullshit I did while I was clean. Finding the bad stuff that I did while I was clean. Where did that come from? Not going to meetings, not being a part of, not doing service. So here I am with this fourth step, looking at my moral inventory, and now it's skewed again back to that side. And here I am looking at my amends list, going back to I can't, because when I did it, wasn't a big deal. I had to go back to that fourth step when I got to my eighth step, because I realized what I'd done for those 15 years. And you want to talk about a humbling experience? Me and my ex-wife, even though we got divorced during that time, are good friends today, because I was able to express that. But there were some of those things when I look at my moral inventory that I am ashamed of still today, because I carried those over till after I got clean. I got 2 sponsees sitting in the room today. One of them and his wife I had to make amends to, because before I met my current wife, they were both in a halfway house. And I tried to get them to fix me up with women that were in the halfway house. That's horrible. But I didn't realize that at the time. I hadn't worked on that myself. And so there was my moral inventory 3-4 years ago. And that experience, it did teach me something. And thank God, me trying that, it never worked. Thank God. Because the process of what I've seen newcomer women go through at times can be traumatic. And I never wanted to be part of that. I didn't think I was part of that. But then I had to look back when I finally did. I was part of that for a little while. And I'm ashamed of that. But I'm not ashamed to share it, because I love every one of y'all. So I make these moral inventories, and I look at what's going on today, what's going on since the last one I did, and what I have fixed and what I have not fixed, going on down the line, and what I concentrate on. And then I move on. 4th, 5th, and 6th steps to me are today to be done kind of fairly quick, but not so quick you don't lose sight of them. So is I get this list, and then the lists are separated. What's good? I've got to look at what's good when I do my 4-step. And my first 2, I didn't do that. I wanted to be fixed. And you know what? I didn't become an addict overnight. I'm not going to be fixed overnight. And, when I look at things that I don't need to change, I don't put a foundation on that. That's that. And as addicts, especially for me, I can change that behavior in a heartbeat because it's never been an issue. This one time I can get away with it. Maybe I can do it again. Well, hell, 30,000 times later, I still ain't high. It's good. That doesn't work. It's a principled program through the Spirit we have. And then as I go into my 5th step, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I'm looking at that negative side about what I want to fix before I look at the character defects behind those shortcomings, or the other way around. I shared something I'm ashamed of, because today I trust that Narcotics Anonymous is where I can share, I can be intimate with all y'all and not be judged. That's why I came back, because I didn't have that. But my fear on sharing that is I'm going to be alienated. I'm going to be set aside because of where my moral inventory has been, where my character defects and shortcomings show up. What I just shared with y'all, yeah, I still feel shame about it, but I'm practicing humility today. And that's what I felt, not humiliation. And that's important to me. I'm sharing trust, things I've found through this program that for an effective 5th step, an effective 4th step, I need to work on these things. Why are we sharing this with a higher power? Why are we sharing this with another human being? Well, first of all, as people, we are sensory beings. If I write it, I can feel that paper. I can see it. I got my eyes. If I share it with another human being, I get to hear it. The more senses we can get involved with it, the more we'll understand it, the more we can carry on with it and do things about it. And why do I share it with my higher power? To build my faith, to build my trust in something that loves me. And when I got here, I know higher power. The only thing I could feel when it came to that is what came to me in Narcotics Anonymous. And I learned during that time, no matter what I did, no matter what I said, no matter how I felt, the one thing that was always there was love, whether I wanted to accept it or not. But at one point, that's all there was, because I had people to talk to, people to show me, people to give me empathy. So today I can give empathy. And as I look at that, before I took my little hiatus, I didn't identify any patterns that I was practicing. I took everything as an individual basis off the front. So here I am practicing more steps down the line instead of concentrating on my 4th and 5th step. Today, I can identify those patterns and look at me and say, is this a pattern that I want to work on now? Are these a group of patterns? But see, when I look at that and I see a pattern that's changed, then when I get to my amends, I can put a whole section of people I need to talk to about that one behavior. And that is really, that has simplified so many things for me when I can identify patterns and I change the pattern. I'm going to share something, and if it embarrasses my wife, too bad. So, I've already told you about this, what I shared yesterday. So, as I finished my fourth, fifth, sixth step a couple of years ago, and I'd known her for about 4 or 5 months, and but at that time is when I identified I stopped some of the behaviors about relationships because that's what's really been focused on my fourth and fifth step the last time. Because that last time also, my second step about insanity ended up being over an entire relationship. And my sponsor telling me, no, it's not doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And at that time, he goes, you got 26 years clean. You know the damn result. What are you going to change? Fuck him. But it was true. And you know, after he told me that, and me and that gal broke up, we got back together, and within 3 weeks, it was the same thing. But anyway, on the day that I had 27 years clean, oh, you were laughing. I asked my wife out, and she told me no. And she was in the middle of a sixth step, and I just finished mine. But anyway, so we'd already had some plans, and she said, hey, let's go do this on Sunday anyway. You know, it wasn't one of those, she's like, yeah, let's hang out. And the thing that happened right there is I did something different. No kiss, nothing, just the friendly hug. And for 2 months, I hung out with her. And it went from once a week, twice a week, 3 days a week. And one of her statements was, hey, you're somebody I can hang out with all day and not be pissed off. So, you know, everything meshed really well. And as I practiced going through changes with relationships I had, something that happened at Recovery on the Ridge, which is a local camp out here, she said she didn't feel it. She felt weird, blah, blah, whatever. I can't remember the exact words. But what I said to her was, do what you got to do. Is there anything I can do to help? And I didn't know it at the time. And then after the camp out, she said to me, she was really grateful for that because I didn't try to control the situation. I didn't try to fix the situation. I let her do what she needed to do. And if I could help, I could help. I was able to step outside myself and let somebody be who they are. I don't know that I can identify that any time prior to that with 28 years clean. And that is one of the huge things of growth I've had. And that's just because of identifying problems I've had in the past through a fourth and fifth step that actually was worked the right way with focus, with some speed, but not that huge, fast whatever. I was able to look at my part on what I'd done in the past, so I didn't have to carry this on to the future through working steps on down the line. So today, you know, if I look at what's happened, I'm able to be a good father. I'm able to be a good husband. I have sponsees here, which I will be honest, I've had less than 5 sponsees until the last 3 years, and now I have 4 going on right now. I've got a grand sponsee. That's never happened before. And it's weird. I mean, we got plans to use that guy in service. I say that jokingly about using, but we're going to get him involved. He needs to learn. And that's the other thing about my 4th and 5th step. Society-wise, I didn't help. What are you giving to me? I'd work at a place, I'd take a little money, I'd get caught, I'd get fired, it was their fault. Consequences are bullshit. But the reality is, I also knew, and I still believe this today, do whatever you want, but be willing to take the consequences. You know, that was hard for me as a kid, because my grandfather told me that when I was like 8. And at 8, my emotional state was still that triangle of self-obsession as a 2-year-old, expecting everybody to feed me instead of feeding myself. Which, you know, at 8, I know how to make a sandwich, but Grandma was going to make it for me. You know, things like that. That might be simple, but I carried that up into my 20s. After I got clean, I carried that a little while into my 30s. Today, you know, it's not as glaring, but there are some simple things in my life that I see it after the fact, and I have to turn around and apologize to my wife and tell her I'm making mistakes. Not even 5 years ago, I never would have admitted that. And that's because of I being able to identify who I am at a moment with my 4th and 5th step. And I'm going to share one more thing, and basically the way I keep that clean is I keep practicing a 10th step. Mm-hmm. And for me, that keeps my slate as clean as I can keep it. Finding who I am and working a step on it. And it might be simple. It might be complicated. But with all those spiritual principles and everything I do that look at it, the one thing I can't do is walk through with an unhealthy fear. I've got to do it. Because it's not going to get any better if I don't. And with that, that's all I've got.